Hello and welcome to the Small Caps podcast. I'm Peter Capsanis. Did you know that recently a Roy Morgan survey found that we'd reached the lowest consumption rate of alcohol in 50 years? Yep, we're drinking less in Australia, apparently. In fact, during April, we saw the lowest sales of alcohol in a long time. Well, Digital Wine Venture is a Sydney-based ASX-listed tech company which provides the wine industry with direct-to-market sales platforms. So much so, it has set up a national distribution centre in Albury-Wodonga. To tell me more, I'm joined by a company's CEO, Dean Taylor. Dean, welcome to the Small Caps podcast.
Thanks for having me today, Peter. It's great to be here.
You're a tech company and obviously you provide different platforms, logistics and whatnot. You've got a focus on wine. Tell me how that's come about. How has it evolved?
Yeah, so look, so Digital Wine Ventures, we're a company that invests in technology servicing the global wine industry, which is valued at over $300 billion currently. Winedepot is our cornerstone investment, and it's a cloud-based SaaS technology platform designed to remove inefficiencies in the supply chain. And I guess how it's come about is, the existing wine distribution, not just in Australia but globally, is incredibly inefficient. It's highly fragmented, and it's very expensive and erosive on the margins of the producers. And so, I guess the platform that we've created sets out to try to remove a lot of that inefficiency by bypassing layers and layers of middlemen and allowing the producers to trade directly with their consumers and also with their trade buyers.
So you don't have any involvement with bricks and mortar liquor stalls or on-premise sales activity, so to speak?
Look, they are. I guess they're a customer group that we allow our suppliers to connect with. We allow them to transact directly without having to go through a distributor or a wholesaler. And typically, a distributor might take, anywhere between, I guess, 35 and 50% of the margin that, or the wholesale price that the producer realises. And so, it's an incredible cost to the Australian wine producers, and at the moment, it represents almost $1 billion of revenue that they're actually losing to wholesale distribution each year.
So, do you find that your platform has kicked in and played a greater role during certainly in the early COVID restriction phase?
Absolutely. What has happened with the Australian wine industry during COVID is the export markets have shut down, the wholesale distribution markets have shut down. And I guess actually many of their cellar doors, or most of the cellar doors, were closed. And so they've had to rely entirely on their direct-to-consumer businesses. And I guess that's a sweet spot in our platform, is that we provide them a logistics service that allows them to offer their customers same and next day deliveries nationally. We're the only company in Australia that can actually do that currently. And with online consumers, and there's a saying that 2 days is too long when it comes to delivery. And the businesses that have embraced quick and cost-effective delivery are the ones that have grown most during the COVID period. So we've seen a massive jump in the volume of wine being sold through those direct-to-consumer channels.
So is it purely the retail market that these producers are targeting, or is it bigger than that? Obviously, I'm talking domestically now. So from a domestic point of view, are your wine producer clients aiming to basically send their product direct to their customer's door?
Yeah, so look, in Australia, we've got about 2,500 wineries, and collectively they produce about $6 billion of wine at wholesale value per annum. About half of that gets exported each year. Another $1 billion is sold direct to consumer, and the remaining 2 billion is sold to trade buyers, which includes restaurants, bars, bottle shops, hotels, clubs, etc. So the customers that we work with, I guess they have exposure to all of those markets, but they've had to rely entirely, really, on that direct consumer market in the last sort of 3 months to generate the majority of their sales. As the restaurants and bars start to reopen, obviously they're starting to re-engage with trade buyers, and we're seeing those volumes start to grow, although very, very slowly. But hopefully once all of the restrictions are lifted, we'll see a lot more of those venues trading back at their full capacities, and that market will bounce back.
So effectively, your platform relies on mail delivery service, I would imagine. Do you think that's a space that's set to grow? And to what extent do you think it'll ever replace the bricks and mortar liquor store retail angle?
Look, I mean, the prior to to COVID, online to wine sales represented somewhere between about 7 and 8% of the overall market. So bricks and mortar was obviously representing a much larger component than that. It's been growing steadily over the last decade or so, but what we saw as the COVID restrictions kicked in, obviously people weren't going out to bars and restaurants as much. They were drinking a lot more at home. And I guess they were also avoiding the shops, and so they were ordering online. And so there were reports of various online wine retailers, their sales increasing 3, 4, 500% over that period as people shifted between their traditional purchasing channels like bricks and mortar stores and online. I think what we'll see is obviously that'll a lot of people will go back to buying their wine and other alcohol in bottle shops once the restrictions are eased. But I think what people have recognised is that it's such a convenient channel to actually purchase through, particularly for things like wine, where it's bulky, it's heavy. It's often hard to, you got to deal with traffic, or it's hard to find a car park. So having it, ordering online, having it delivered, I think a lot of people have really enjoyed that convenience, and I don't think they'll ever go back. So I think that the percentage of online liquor sales will definitely grow from the base it had at the start of this year, and I don't think we'll ever see it return to the 7 or 8% that it was at.
So how big is this market opportunity for the likes of your company, Digital Wine Venture? How big is the space? And or I guess more importantly, right now, you said 2,500 wineries in Australia. Roughly what percentage do you think of those wineries are using systems like your platforms?
So if I come back to the different market segments, there's the three main segments: the export market, there's the direct-to-consumer market, and the trade market. We I guess we're focusing on the trade and that direct-to-consumer market. With the direct-to-consumer, that's typically, most of that gets delivered to consumers' homes, so that people are ordering from the wineries and they're having it delivered. And so there's been ways that the wineries have managed that in the past. But fundamentally, delivering wine from regional areas to, particularly across the country, to capital cities is incredibly expensive. It's slow, and it's fraught with damages. So the platform that we've created actually relies on a network of depots. So we have a depot in each of the major capitals: so Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. We hold the wineries' inventory on consignment in those depots, and as the orders come through, we pick, pack, and we deliver to the customers. So they're able to get not only same-day deliveries, but much cheaper deliveries by utilising that service. In terms of people doing that, we're the only company currently that's providing that service to wineries. We've seen enormous take-up so far in that service. Very comfortable with the growth rates that we're experiencing, and I'd like to think that within 12 months that more than half the wineries in Australia will be using that service. We've got a long way to go to get to that number, but we certainly seem to be on that growth trajectory at the moment. In terms of the other market, the trade market, now that's historically been a market that the wineries have sold their products to the distributors, and then the distributors then manage the distribution of those products to the various trade buyers across the country. And obviously, the delivery component is a big part of that service. So by utilising the same network that we've created for the direct-to-consumer deliveries, we're able to provide that delivery service for trade deliveries to the wineries. There's benefits in it for the winery in the sense that we can allow them to do that without having to pay the 35% to a distributor. But there's also benefits for the trade buyers because instead of, let's say they're ordering from 20 different suppliers or wineries, rather than receiving 20 deliveries, 20 invoices, and having to make 20 payments, they can do that all through us with one order, one invoice, one delivery, and one payment. It's early days, but that's a market that's currently worth $2.2 billion in Australia. I think there's an immense amount of savings that we can generate the producers by switching to using our marketplace for that service. So, it's a fantastic market opportunity. I'd like to think that we'll be able to secure a large part of that $2.2 billion market.
I'd like to get your thoughts on Amazon Australia launching its own online alcohol sales platform that it announced this week, not only in wine, but beer and spirits as well. Is that going to complement what you do, or is it going to compete against what you do now?
Look, it's something that we envisage will be complementary. We don't intend to sell direct to consumers. All of the orders that we process are orders that the wineries are generating themselves, or the transactions between the wineries and trade buyers, such as restaurants and bars and bottle shops. But another segment that we're servicing is the online retailers and online marketplaces. We're providing a platform that allows the wineries to transact and service orders coming from be it an Amazon or an eBay or one of the other consumer marketplaces, and then those orders can be picked and packed from our depot network and delivered quickly and cost effectively to the end consumer. So look, if anything, we see Amazon as a potential opportunity, as another sales channel that we can offer to the wine producers that we're working with, based on what they've been able to achieve in other categories, I'd like to think they become quite a powerful sales channel in the Australian market. So look, if anything, I'm actually very excited about Amazon pushing into the alcohol category.
What's your message to the bricks and mortar space, your liquor store retailers? Should they embrace the change and embrace the online portal side of things to stay alive?
There's a saying, I guess, in our space is that if you're not a technology company, you're about to be disrupted by one. And I think that goes for just about every industry, including ours. The bricks and mortar outlets, if they haven't already embraced online sales channels, then look, they're going to just continue to lose market share. There's no doubt about it. Over the last decade, there's been sort of virtually no growth, and as you sort of pointed out earlier, there's been a contraction actually in the consumption levels in alcohol, but what we've seen, I guess, over that period is that people that are still buying, they're actually just changing the channel they buy through, and they're moving from traditional channels to online channels, and that's just going to continue to happen. So, I think there's a range of ways in which bricks and mortar stores can engage with technology and online sales. Obviously, more recently, there's been the introduction of services such as Tipple, Jimmy Brings. There's a number of those, and that's allowing consumers to order online, actually have it delivered from their local bottle shop. So that's one channel that they can engage with. But certainly, I guess the smarter and I guess the more progressive retailers have realised that online is here to stay, and they've actually made an investment in their own websites and apps and other technologies to help to leverage their existing assets and push into that market.
Very interesting indeed. Now, Dean, I mentioned you are a Sydney-based ASX-listed company, and DW8's share price rallied this week. What's been the catalyst for that?
Look, we only launched the business in the last quarter of 2019, so we've only really been trading for 6 months, and I think what happened over the last week or two is we've been releasing our results, and investors have seen, I guess, the rapid growth that the business is experiencing across the number of wineries that we're working with, but also the number of orders that we're processing. And I think they've started to realise the real potential of our platform. So, I think in many ways, the lift in share prices has been the market starting to realise the potential of the business and where it can go from here. And I'd like to think it's still very early days in that regard, and there's still a lot of growth there to come.
So, why do you think people should invest in digital wine venture?
We are essentially a startup, and you don't really get that many startups in publicly listed companies. So, I guess the one thing I'd point out is that this is it's a great opportunity for investors to get involved in a startup and the sort of the multiple rises in value that it can experience. But holding that through a listed company and having that liquidity available. So I think that would be the main reason is certainly getting that exposure to a high growth startup. Obviously, wine is another interesting category that most people have some sort of affinity with. One of the little benefits we're offering to our shareholders is that we make offers available to them from our the wineries that we're working with. Some of them up to 30 or 40% off their regular prices, and so it's obviously not the main reason for investing, but it's a nice little perk that we provide. But look, wine is. I think there's only 3 listed wine companies on the Australian Stock Exchange, and the outlook obviously for us at the moment is focusing on growing the Winedepot business. But in the future, we see Digital Wine Ventures as being a company that will invest in other businesses that are disrupting the wine category or the beverage category, not just here in Australia but globally. So, I think it's certainly an interesting company, as an investor, to try to use to get some exposure to that part of the market.
Do you see your space branching into beer and spirits?
Look, it's already happened. We have some craft spirits producers that are using our platform. We've been approached by some micro brewers and craft brewers to use the same platform. We have some of our clients are actually using our platform to distribute olive oil and specialty vinegars. So look, so wine's certainly the category that we want to focus on, but we've already found that there's enormous application for what we're doing in other verticals, and that's another really exciting part of the business. I guess longer term, the constraints that we have here in Australia exist in other markets, and we believe there's immense potential to take our platform into other major wine markets. One that interests us in particular is certainly China. China has become our major export partner for the wine category. They of the $2.8 billion of wine exported each year, they take $1.2 billion of that. And last year that grew 50 odd percent. So it's it's a really exciting market, a lot of potential, and there's immense application for our platform in that market that we believe.
Dean, well, obviously, it looks like it's the likes of Digital Wine Venture are here to stay for long term. Anyone listening to this podcast right now, then, if they want to get in touch, if they want to use your platform and your services, what do they do? How do they get in touch?
Yeah, certainly. So if they're a wine producer or distributor importer, their best bet would be to visit our website, which is at winedepot depot.com, and provide their details on the registration form there, and we'll get in contact with them. There's also lots of information available on that website. For investors, we have a separate website at digitalwine.ventures, and that has information about the various investments. It includes recent media coverage, and there's also where we publish the specials that our winery partners offer to our shareholders.
Well, there you go. Anyone that loves a good red or white will probably be getting in touch after they hear this, Dean. Look, Dean, thanks so much for your time today. Another fascinating and interesting podcast on small caps. Good luck with it, and by all means, please keep us in the loop as to how your business progresses in the near future.
Certainly will, Peter. Thanks again for having me.